Hello, I'm Patty Steinhauser, and I'm here today to present a research proposal on the Agile approach to learning and development, specifically how instructional design teams may be affected when integrating Agile software development and methodology. My primary research question is what challenges and benefits do instructional designers report when changing their design team's approach to an Agile framework? My secondary questions are, what are some of the possible solutions to integrating Agile into learning and development? And how successful is the Agile approach in designing, developing, and delivering software training? Some important terms in this proposal include Agile software development. I'm not speaking of the generic definition of Agile, which sometimes relates to Lean or the SAM, successive approximation model, used by ID development. In this study, I'm referring to the project management approach of developing increments of software in frequent iterations based on evolving requirements, and the principles are outlined in the Agile Manifesto. Scrum is an iterative software model that follows a set of predefined roles, responsibilities, and primarily meetings. Sprints are the iterations assigned to a fixed length, typically lasting 1 to 2 weeks, but can last as long as a month. And finally, user story is based on software features and is a brief, non-technical description of software system requirements written from the customer or end user point of view. The Agile team is in place to develop software. Sometimes the L&D professional is the only one protecting the end user, according to Brian Bleak of Action Learning. Some other L&D concerns I've captured. If Agile were anti-documentation, why is there a manifesto? And then this little Dilbert cartoon. We're going to try something called Agile programming. That means no more planning and no more documentation. Just start writing code and complaining. I'm glad it has a name. That was your training. And then the Agile Manifesto principles. While there is value on the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So working product over comprehensive documentation is highlighted. For 25 years, I've worked as a corporate trainer and an instructional designer, primarily developing and delivering IT software training. Recently, I was part of an instructional design team at a large manufacturing company required to integrate Agile software methodology over the past year. I'm very concerned about how L&D will evolve in corporate America, and this study is my attempt to understand the challenges that arise from such an implementation and to document the successes of moving toward an Agile approach. So that's my purpose. In summary, why is it important? Corporate leaders are eager to implement company-wide Agile methodology, which values working software over comprehensive documentation. However, learning and development practices a different design philosophy, including thorough analysis and documentation. Because I care deeply about end users and the success of learning and development, I believe further research is necessary to explore the challenges and benefits of shifting an L&D design team to Agile. Some other justification. Agile has a steep learning curve and change management may be necessary. Although rapid development SAM is used, many IDs also use ADDIE, the waterfall project plan, including analysis and documentation. Decentralized knowledge development may limit IDs' access to vast knowledge of individual teams, and location away from these teams may be an issue. IDs are typically spread across several projects, difficulty attending multiple Scrum meetings. Some information in the Scrum meetings may not be relevant to ID, but if meetings are not attended, valuable software demonstrations could be missed. Agile encourages product-centered features documentation rather than user-centered documentation. Distributing knowledge and iterations to users may cause a loss of ID integrity. Since Agile is driven by software development roles, IDs may feel minimalized. Scope may not apply to L&D tasks, so L&D may lag behind, typically sprints and releases. With the ever-changing iterations, software environment may not always be stable for IDs to use for documentation. IDs may go along to get along, typically choosing to check the box and disregarding Agile principles, which may prove useful to L&D. And solutions may be discovered as a result of this in future studies, enabling L&D and software development to work in sync. My first literature review discusses the potential pitfalls and risks using 56 practitioner interviews. So they talk about adoption, tailoring, and use. Adoption, of course, would be persuading employees. So that'd be the change management piece. Tailoring would be more of a hybrid approach to Agile, and then use, a lot of more training in Agile, because there's this typically steep learning curve. A second literature review involves review of academic and practitioner journals, and they could find no articles with complete success of Agile life cycles in large corporations, so that's troubling. There may be detractors arise from implementing Agile, and some people may be apprehensive. So one of the benefits in implementing a hybrid approach might be that projects using primary traditional methods will remain, and the benefits could help mitigate some antagonism that goes along with the change effort. Another literature review presents several software engineering design principles and illustrates how they can improve e-learning. So given the similarities between software engineering and instructional design, we believe that Agile methodology is also a feasible model for instructional design, particularly for e-learning solutions. This 5-year study of Agile implementations in a major multinational telecommunications company reports on 6 pitfalls that can negatively influence learning, ideation, and exploitation. So learning and ideation are not legitimized by the team. Organizational structure drifting toward prioritization of urgent issues instead of L&D and innovation, reduced product accumulation, reduced knowledge integration, loss of knowledge, who to go to for your information, and lack of individual self-efficacy. And this industry article talked about the problems facing technical writers who are similar to instructional designers in software training. Floating across multiple projects and meetings, no co-location with team members, doc tasks not managed like other tasks, scope does not apply to doc tasks, product-centered documentation rather for users, and engineer finishes feature on the last day of the sprint. Only then can you play around with it long enough to document. The development environment is often not stable. And then here's some solutions for tech writers. They're suggesting tech writers form their own documentation-based Scrum. And they state that now with our own meetings in our own team, we can attend our meetings and talk to the subject matter experts in our own time outside of the Scrum meetings. Why document in Agile? Product stakeholders need it. Supports communication with external users. Organizational memory, that's important to the L&D. Audit purposes, and simply to think things through. For my research design, I would use research participants comprised of a department of 8 instructional designers who primarily develop software training and non-instructional interventions, 2 to 25 years of experience, 3 to 10 years of employment, located at Savannah, in headquarters at Savannah, Georgia. This would be qualitative data based on surveys and interviews, so preliminary anonymous surveys distributed to IDs to collect general information about Agile methodology and usage, followed on by one-on-one interviews conducted with IDs for more in-depth information and observation. For future research, I recommend a quantitative approach. We could study course development using traditional versus Agile methodology to measure success or failure, rating scale based on a set of rubrics, and student evaluations and tests. Thank you for your time. In my research proposal, I've outlined several reasons why this study is significant, especially for success of instructional designers in a corporate environment. I hope you'll consider supporting this research and evaluation program so that we can move forward in studying this important and relevant topic. If you have any questions or comments, please email me at the address listed on this slide. The following slides document my literature review.